Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. This is actually a re-record of our actual webinar because there were audio glitches that happened. That's what I was afraid of when I started the webinar because I was getting a little bit of signals, but I didn't want you to not have the replay. So I'm going through the session as if we were here just doing this in person. Just some of the questions that you had are not going to show up, of course, because they were in the chat, but I'll try to follow along as best I can to cover some of the high points that I remember you asking. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. If you do want a copy of today's actual recording and to come back here to get a copy of the marketing planner that I gifted you guys, so it's a 66-page planner that's available to you. You can go here to get customers market in moments. To that bit.ly link is get customers market in moments, or you can use that QR code, snap it there. Just remember your password because that is what you will need to be able to access everything when I drop things in there for you. Again, it'll be available. The recording, the replay will be available for 10 days. For those of you that could not get into the session, I am so sorry to hear that you could not get into the session. That, of course, was nothing that we anticipated because we run usually at about 50% registration. So 50% of the people that register actually attend. This time, though, we had so many people that actually attended. So we are definitely going to expand that out, and hopefully I'll have all of that in place tomorrow when we have our part 2 of it, which is valuable visibility, because that's so important for this to apply, for you to be able to be visible to customers when they are ready to know, go, do, or buy. So we're going to be talking about how you can create market in moments. This truly is about the marketing moments that you create for people. So it does provide you the opportunity to understand your customers so well that you truly know what their journey is, and those micro moments when they're making decisions on your product, service, or solution that could help them. So this is even before that they know that your solution exists. So this gives you a chance to really understand them, and that's on us to become experts on our customers. We really need to know the words that they look for, what they need to use, the pitfalls they come against, some of the decisions that they're going to be make, and the feelings that they have around us, because it helps us make more than a transactional connection. But it's important for us to know our customers so well that we don't know them just in the looking zone. When we are in the looking zone, that means that we are now shopping by price often. Everything becomes a commodity at that point. And it's important for us to differentiate ourselves, to truly stand out and understand what people look like steps before they're in the looking zone. So before they're looking for your product, service, and solution, what are your customers doing? What are they searching for? What are they saying, hey Google, hey Alexa, that they need in order for them to move forward in their journey and to be able to solve whatever it is that they're working on and focused on? Now, if you've never met me before, this is who I am. I do come with a strong business background. I'm one of the 7 national Google trainers. So I'm a Grow with Google professional trainer on the Google team. And I primarily get the opportunity to work with military families, those who are veterans transitioning out of civilian life, or those military spouses or family members who are also running a business dealing with PCSing, which is moving or deployments, or any of the very many challenges that the military does have in actually being a family member in military life, because that's where I come from. I'm an Air Force brat. I'm a mom of 3 boys. I absolutely love small businesses. That's why I do what I do. I do actually have been in small business for 18 plus years. I was on remote and working remote since 2004, before it was sexy and cool and all these tools were available. And I also do love working with startups. So you will see me talk a lot about startups, and I try to be able to help you because I am absolutely a bootstrap marketer. I believe in what's free or small fee, and everything that I'm talking about today is 100% free. So let's dive in and talk about those market moments. Really understanding who that best customer is. It doesn't mean that we can't serve anybody, everybody, and somebody, but if that is who our target is, if all of our messaging, and when I say messaging, it's our content, our text, our video, everything that we're putting out there on our website, socials, anything in post, in video, if all of that is for anybody, everybody, and somebody, will get their second cousin, nobody. The message in that point is too vague. It is too diluted. And so if somebody who is our best customer hears it, they don't even get that you're talking about them. And they really need to hear the message so crystal clear that when they hear it, they think, oh my gosh, they get me. That's really the reaction that we're looking for. So as we talk about marketing in moments, building those relationships, having the content that helps support customers through their journey and whatever they're trying to be able to do well or try to figure out, now we start building relationships and trust that are more than just transactional. Understand, people will leave businesses in a heartbeat, but they won't leave people that they have relationships with. And for those of us who are in the e-commerce world, we may know this word really well, the acronym LTV, lifetime value of a customer. That's so important that any of us in the online or offline world need to understand what that lifetime value is of our customer, and that they not only bring themselves and all their business associated with it, but also their contact sphere, so their circle of influence. And this is important to know, because when you can borrow from their credibility, when they recommend and refer you, now you come in at a much stronger trust level, which means that you can gain and earn the business from borrowing from their credibility, which is tremendous. So whenever we can increase that lifetime value and the circle that they actually influence and have the association to connect with them, by getting a great endorsement from them, a review, a referral, or recommendation, that's very, very powerful. So as we look here, I want you to think about three words. Excuse me. And these three words, the number one word I want you to think about is, what do people feel? What are the words that they use when they are totally happy with the product or service or solution that you provide them? You uniquely provide them. What are some of those words? Really delve into their words, not your words, not our industry speak, but into their words that they use when they're just so pleased as pie that they have been working with us, or they found or used your product, or you were able to solve something for them. What are their words? Okay. So then as we look at number two, we want to think about, what are the words they use when they're so upset? When they're so upset, they're unhappy, they're disappointed, they're frustrated. What do those words of frustration and anger and disappointment sound like? What are the words that they actually use? And if you don't know what words that they use, then ask them. And if you don't have customers to ask, read your actual competitors' reviews, because in their reviews they will tell you what mattered most to them and what they were upset about too. What really, and using their words, because we need their words, not our words and not our industry speak. For number three, think about, what words do they use when they are satisfied and happy. So not just with your product or service, when they themselves are happy with just life in general, their existence, everything that's happening. What words do they use when they're delighted? Okay, so think about this. Number one was, what words do they use when they're happy and pleased as can be with your service, product, or solution? What words do they use in general, just when they're upset? It doesn't matter that they're upset with you, the service, the day, the weather. What words do they use? And number three are, what words do they use when they're just so happy? All right, when they're just so happy, because this is important for us. So for example, if I was a notary republic, so if I was a notary, and I was a traveling notary, then I knew that if somebody was satisfied with me, they just felt like, oh, she's so professional, right? So professional. Now, when they're upset, the words they use are, oh, horrible. Um, they could use the word disappointment, or, just mad and angry beyond belief. So those might be the words they use. But then when they're happy, and not necessarily with my product, service, or solution, but when they're happy, they're just excited, and they've got this, they feel lively, they feel fun, they feel alive, they feel grateful, so much appreciation, so much gratitude. Okay, really know their words, because it's important for us to match how people are searching and what words they use. So for example, if they're searching for a notary, they might be looking for, I'm looking for somebody who's professional, who can make me feel comfortable, pleased, on top of the world about what I've just done, and that I'm able to get to the next chapter in my life. Those might be some of the words that they're using. Or they may say, oh, I worked with this notary and it was just hell and disappointment. It was empty promises. If that's the words they use when they're angry, You need to know those too, because those are the ways they say they search. Hey Google, hey Alexa, or they text that in. And it's important for us because the way Google, any search engine works, is it actually has three pillars. So three pillars, and each pillar is made up of about 16,000 different components. But one is relevance. How relevant, how well do you match what somebody is searching? So if all your content out there, from videos, photos to text, everything out there is about, well, we're very competent and provide a plethora of services, but what they're looking for is somebody who will listen to me, who focuses and makes me feel heard. And our content's not saying that, we won't be relevant and we won't match. So for you, these three words, what stuck and struck you, all right, because this is important. And a lot of times, even when somebody's introducing you to their circle of influence, I ask you to slow down and listen. See what words they use, or what they put into the email introduction, or maybe they did the intro on socials. You look at those words, because if they're not using any of these words and they're pretty much handing it off to you saying, you know what, I want to introduce you to Maria and here she is, let her tell you what she does. That is code for I don't know exactly what she provides, and I'm hoping she's going to fill that in, which is not where you want a customer or a connection who's really good and can provide you a good contact into their friends and family and their circle of influence. You want them to truly know what words best describe you. What's also exciting is when you can slow down and listen to people as they're doing this or sending email introductions, and when they use the words that you've identified are the words that make them the happiest and most satisfied. Those are awesome. That's so fulfilling when you can see that. So understand, we are creatures of emotion, and that's why I talk about this, because it's about how your brand is actually delivered and seen, because the brand is truly, it's not just what we create in graphics and logos, but it's also our messaging and our tone and the experience. So it is the space that we take up in somebody's mind and how they describe us. So that's why it's important for us to understand this. And we are emotional beings. Excuse me. So we connect in a very emotional way. And it's important for us to know what emotions we evoke and what emotions that also are a part of somebody's decision journey. So it's important, excuse me, it's important for us to know our value. What is it that we deliver? What is it and why people do business with us? And it's important then for us to know our VPs. This is our vision, our purpose, our values, and our passion. They need to come across with everything, because this really helps differentiate us from everyone else. This is what makes us so unique. It's that vision. What are we seeing? What do we want? Why do we do what we do? What's our purpose? What's our value? What do we provide and bring to the table to our customers and to everyone that we serve, that our product or our service serves? And then also, what is that passion that we have? What are we so driven to do? You heard me say that at the very beginning. I am passionate about small businesses. If I wasn't, because I do know and understand about Google Tech Speak, but one of the things and the ways that people describe me first is that I make the non-techie practical, or make tech not techie and practical. That's one of the ways they describe me. If I didn't have a passion for small business, I wouldn't take the time to connect those dots, because it wouldn't matter to me. But it does matter to me, because I've walked in your shoes, those of you who are small businesses, and ran a small business, and I wouldn't be where I'm at had it not been for business incubators, chambers of commerce, the SBDC. I mean, these are all people that I leaned on for counseling, for solutions, and also to learn from OPE, other people's experience, which is super valuable. It's more valuable than other people's money, in my opinion, because it gives me so much more that I don't have to waste my time, energy, and money on. So for you, what's your vision, purpose, values, and passion? Because that will drive you and come across in everything that you do and how you measure success in your business. It's important for you to know what your value is. What do you deliver to that best customer? And do you truly know who the best customer is? Because even though we might be able to serve anybody, everybody, and somebody, they're all gravy. If we miss our best customer, if we don't really connect everything with them, we were missing our meat and potatoes of our actual business, and we need to get to them. Everybody else we serve is just extra. So what makes us unique? Why is it that we do what we do? So when I was working with a real estate agent, One of the things that she found made her so unique is, first, she, within a room of 250 other insurance agents, she pretty much did the same thing. She could buy home, she could sell homes, and she could help other people buy homes. That's great. But what she really brought to the table was the fact that she had been through an awful divorce, so she wanted to help other people, other women transitioning from marriage to divorce. So she wanted to focus on those who are going through that transition, because at the time they have to think about this big emotional decision and economic decision on selling their home or downsizing it, and also with everything else that's happening in their life. This person, though, what made her even more unique wasn't just her personal experience with divorce, but she also was a teacher before she was a real estate agent. So she knew the school district in the area backwards and forwards. She knew exactly everybody from counselors to teachers to principals, and she knew what styles and what flavors worked best for different families. So she was able to be good insight for people when you're looking at a sea of 250 other people who can do what you do. She absolutely stood out for her uniqueness. So you want to become that expert on your customer. It's important for you to understand how they search, what matters to them, and what their decision journey looks like. So as you see here, this is what a journey could look like. It could start with searching, be it on Google, Bing, or Yahoo, whatever ways they search, but they could visit some sites to see additional information. They can start reading really to understand. Some people go out to socials and just shout out to socials that they need something, that they want something, or they need help. Help, I need a notary. Does anybody know a mobile notary in town? Or I need somebody who can help authorize or certify that I signed these papers. All right, so they might be watching some videos to figure out how they could even do it virtually to connect with somebody. They could be searching to see who has that service nearby. Perhaps they're looking at email, or they're looking for opportunities where maybe something else is packaged together with it. And then it gets them to conversion. And let me slow down to explain what conversion is, because I've been in the nonprofit world too. I was in corporate, then nonprofit, then in for myself. But understand that in nonprofit, there's conversion in getting friends. So friend raising is important, volunteers, donors, and sponsors. All of those are conversions, successful things that you can see help you grow your business, which in your business is actually funding and growing your nonprofit. So part of that is being able to tell a story. It's important for us to understand story, because story is truly what connects us. People want to know exactly how you can impact their story. So when you think about it, what's a difficult or challenging moment that you've helped your customer through? Slow down and take some time to really think this through, and even write down exactly the scenario, so it's top of mind for you, but you're totally immersed in some of the fears and joys that your customer or your client was going through as they were searching to find you. What are the questions that they were asking? What were they scared of actually happening? How did you want them to feel when they found you? What was a defining moment for them? This is also really important. What was it that was very critical for them in their decision making journey? And then also, maybe what was a funny moment? What was something that was just, wow, I didn't expect that, or look at this happening, or maybe something even that was that comic relief as they were going through whatever they're going through. Because it could be good, it could be bad. Either way, it doesn't mean that it's always in negative than when they're looking for solution. They could just be looking for something better. And what was an adventurous moment? What was something where it was truly an adventure? Could be, I went to go find this notary. I had to go to this old office building, was dilapidated. I couldn't even, the elevator wasn't working. I had to climb 3 flights of stairs. Thank goodness I didn't wear my highest heels at that time. What was it for them? You really need to know what that story is and what lessons were learned in each of these stories. So as I go back through the stories here, what lessons were learned that was challenging then when you helped them? What did they learn? Maybe it was just even a frame of mind. They didn't even realize that any service like this could be mobile. All right. So what are some of the lessons learned? Now, for you, it's important for you to unlock your own story as well. And this is why this is critical, because people connect with stories. That's why we as children even ask for story time. We love things in stories. So, for a moment, if you think, I was on my way for on my way to vacation. Actually, we were headed out, so you've just been running around, you're packed and ready to go. Now, one thing you need to know about me is I'm an Air Force brat, so I've lived 20 something years on military bases across the world. I am used to my father saying when we left on vacation to secure the perimeter, so we secured everything, windows, doors, all of that. My husband's small town America, he leaves his truck with his keys on running in the driveway. It drives me absolutely nuts, but it's what he's used to. So when we went on vacation, we brought the garage door down. I had secured the perimeter, but I locked the keys inside. Now understand, even though the garage door can come back up again, the door to the garage, the house, was locked too, because yes, I'm that person that does that. So here we are, wanting to get out. It's hot, of course, because I'm in Texas, so it's always hot. And here we are now waiting for a locksmith to come in. And I'm sitting there and he's looking at me going, oh my gosh, look what you've done. And I'm looking at myself going, oh my gosh, what have I done? And it's funny because that story helps people understand the difference between the two of us and just the way we approach the security in the house. But it's funny also because it does give you a picture that there is a story that you have access to, that a lot of times we lock ourselves out of that. Either we don't believe in storytelling, even though human nature tells us we love to be told stories, we love to be immersed in good stories, so we think that it's ineffective, but it's just because of the kind of stories that we are actually sharing out there. We don't believe in our own stories. Why should those matter to somebody else? But sometimes we don't understand how much of us is actually in there, and that helps build rapport. So, how much of us is actually in the decision that we have in either running or growing a business or being a part of a business? Because even if you're not the owner, you as a personal brand signed on for the mission and the focus of this business for some reason, and we lock ourselves out of that very thing that really is ours. So as we look here, I just told you a story, right? It wasn't amazing, it wasn't fantastic, and it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be appointed to some governor's desk or governor's committee. You don't have to get a certificate for a story to be effective. So let's talk about that effective story, because it truly does provide potential and engagement, and we are all emotional creatures. So as we look at crafting that perfect story, it's important for you to know your VPs. What's your vision, purpose, values, and passion? Also, what makes you unique? Get feedback from customers, because when you can really walk in their shoes and understand in behind from behind the windows of their eyes, you'll get a chance to really understand how you impacted their story. When I talk about planting a word garden, that is the three words that I started at the beginning, so you do understand exactly the words that people are using, not your words, their words, and truly understand that customer journey. So as we set those goals, understand that the story is important. It's important for connection. It really needs to connect at the feelings level. All right. So again, it's not that amazing moment. It could just be a simple moment. So for example, let me just jump in here. There we go. Coming back. Pretend I'm an insurance agent. All right. Let's just start with that. I was 8 years old and there was a knock on the door. We got to the door, and my father was also an insurance agent, and there was this family whose house had burnt down, had just recently burned down, and they were bringing my father gifts, a gift basket, and were filled with so much gratitude. They were grateful that no one was hurt in the fire, but they were even grateful that Dad had made sure that everything was costed out, that they didn't lose anything, and they were able to start again. It was at that moment that I decided I wanted to be an insurance agent, and it was important for me to be there and be helpful to people when they needed it the most. Isn't that better than me saying and using that same time to say, hey, I'm Maria Duron, I'm an insurance agent. I can help you with property and casualty, with your vehicles, with also your vacation homes, your fun vehicles, your RVs. I can help insure everything from property to vehicles, even trailer homes and RVs. I can be there for you. Just let me know what you need. I'm Maria Duron. Isn't that same amount of time better served with a more emotional story? Doesn't that draw you in? So, three elements of story that you need to know. Nobody wants to hear a story. I did not start telling you the story with I am telling you a story, because if we start with that, Adults, we immediately shut down. Oh my gosh, we don't want to hear this story. It's the same reason that we don't like to see vacation photos. We might want to see one or two, but we're not going to see the 180 pictures that you took from going to Temecula, California. We're not interested in that. We just want the one or two, unless we're totally vested in you. That's the only reason we might go through all of the photos. But they also want to hear themselves in that story. They really need to identify with who that story is about. So it's important for you to really put that person and that customer to see themselves in that story. That's why I told you the unlocking story, right? Because I wanted you to walk in my shoes and to see yourself in those shoes, that you're locking yourself out of something that you already have access to. So that's very important. And again, it enables that listener, and it's not about talking about yourself. You are telling your story, but really so that they can see themselves in that story. You also need to be very emotional. You see, I did not start, as I said, with I'm going to tell you a story, and I dropped you right in. I'm 8 years old, knock on the door, dad, an insurance agent. I dropped you right in the middle of it. Just like a major feature film would, they drop you right in. You don't have any context of what happened before. You just know, here I am right here. And it's engaging all your senses and emotions. And when we, as human beings that do take sense and emotion into our decision making, that provides us more vivid and more real connection with the person telling the story or the business telling the story. All right, so as we look at this, it gives us a chance to re-access those feelings that we had in the moment. It also connects at the unconscious level, which is really important because that is where we go with that gut feeling that we make a lot of decisions from. So remember what I said about stories are created in moments, and we talked about these 4 moments earlier. These 4 moments are critical for you to understand what are moments when you have helped customers through a difficult or challenging moment. What's been a defining moment for a customer that you've worked with, either before or after they've worked with you? What's been a funny moment, and what's been an adventurous moment? It's important for us, remember what I said, to be what? Experts in our customer. So we really need to know what these moments are for them and what they mean to them. Now, when I told you the story about my dad and the insurance agent, I actually used what's known as the 5-year-old storyline. So it starts with a moment. Remember, we're never going to say, I'm going to tell you a story, because that's just like, okay, I've gotten all the vacation videos out. Everybody gather around the projector here, because I'm going to take you through all of these videos or these photos. That's not what we want to do, right? We just want to drop them in immediately, bring them in there, bring them right onto the cliff. And what did I start with? Once upon a time, suddenly, so something happened. There's a knock on the door. Luckily, dad was an insurance agent and he was able to help them, and they were very grateful. Happily ever after, I too became an insurance agent. Now, you're not going to say these things out loud, but this gives you the guideposts to structure any story that you tell, be it on video, TikTok, Instagram Reel, YouTube Shorts, or whether you're in person telling a story. Because a lot of times we know this much about our business, but it's hard. The challenge for us is to get it in bite-sized form that really means something to the other person listening. And we can do that with a 5-year-old storyline, which is once upon a time, suddenly, luckily, and happily ever after. I encourage you to do this with all of your stories, except of course you don't say once upon a time out loud. You just think, just like I did and modeled for you. Once upon a time. I was 8 years old. My father's an insurance agent. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Luckily, he was an agent. He took care of making sure to value all their stuff. Happily ever after, that's what I decided to become. Make sense? You can also use this for video concepts. You know, we do a lot of video storytelling now. It's given favor even in Google's generative AI. So videos and photos show up higher in search. They're given more favor by the algorithm. What about you? Are you doing videos out there? YouTube is the #2 search engine in the world. All right, Google is #1. So as we know this, are you telling your story there? What is the purpose of your video? How do you want somebody to feel when they see your video? What's the next action you want them to take? And who's the star of your video? Is it you? Is your business, your product, your service, or your customer, or maybe a team member? All right. So it's important for you to relive that experience, really get into saturating those senses and being more vivid. because that helps people really align with, oh, I felt this before. This, they feel this too. They and I are a lot alike. You want that kind of connection. Now, I've taught you quite a bit today as we put this together. Of course, part two is tomorrow, which is where we're talking about valuable visibility and how we can apply this into the online and offline world. But know that knowledge is not powerful until it's applied. So, what are you going to apply today? What is it that you are going to do? I am, or that you believe needs to happen next, or that you will start researching and looking into? What is it that you're going to do? Because without applying knowledge, our time today may be interesting. It might be edutainment for you, but so that's education and entertainment. But until you apply it, it won't help you grow your business. And that's really why you're investing your time today with me. Of course, if you want the 5-day visibility plan, which will start getting you in the habit of being visible, I'll show you more about that tomorrow. But you can also access it here by using this QR code or that bit.ly code, get found in 5. And then, of course, as I always model exactly what I tell people about, always ask for a review when you've given a good service. Hopefully, I have given good service and you will give me a review. I would love it. You don't have to, but I sure would be honored by your review and your feedback. That always helps me. Thank you, thank you, thank you again to our wonderful Google partners who made all of this possible. Of course, I'll turn off the recording at this point because the Q&A is only for the people who are in the room. I want to preserve your privacy. Plus, I honor the fact that you have spent the time with me here today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for valuable visibility as we take the next step in getting more customers. Thank you, everyone.